we're going to be talking about support and resistance levels. Now, this is the foundation of most trading systems that you will come across, and this is the foundation of a lot of TA that you are going to find. And this is also the first step into how I find my hot zones. So by the end of this lesson, you're going to understand how to allocate and identify key support and resistance levels, and that will be the first step into creating your hot zone. So the first thing we need to do when we are pulling support and resistance levels is we need to understand that they all carry different weightings. Now, the time frame determines the strength of a support or a resistance band. So typically, if you are looking at a chart using weekly levels, we know that the support and resistance bands on a weekly chart is going to be a lot stronger than support and resistance on a 1 hour chart. So let's get into the basics. Let's identify some weekly support and resistance levels, and then let's see how it actually plays out in real time. Let's see how this phantom starts playing out, and let's see how we identify these regions. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the box on the left-hand bar on TradingView, and then I'm going to look for areas where I can see 3 wicks or 3 candle closes in a hot zone. So for example, this region over here looks pretty juicy to me. So I'm going to drag my box through across. We can see why this is a zone of interest. I've got 3 candles in this region. You can see the wicks are closing in that box. Then I've got another hot zone. This region looks pretty decent, so I'm going to drag my box across. Then there's another juicy zone here with candle wicks. We've got multiple candles in this region. Let's pull the box across. And then here's a nice juicy zone at the lows as well. We can see a nice cluster of candles there. We're going to pull the box across. Now, let's see how this plays out in real time. Okay, so now we understand the principle of drawing support and resistance areas. You can see in this example, they reacted relatively well in those types of zones. Now, the principle is the exact same on lower time frames. So remember, on the weekly, it's a stronger support and resistance. When we are looking at lower time frames, we are zoomed in. So we're looking at a more micro scale, and those are less impactful than the bigger zones, but they do have their role to play in lower time frame trades. And also they play a role in finding killer entries. Let's take a look at Phantom on the 4 hour. And you can see I've identified a few regions over here. And now we're going to draw some boxes around some of the candles just to get a picture as to what is going on. So the first hot zone is at the top. You can see I've got 3 candle wicks and a couple of candle closes in that region. So I'm going to draw my box and cover that zone. So now I know this is a resistance band for me. Then I've got another interesting zone in the middle. You can see I've got a cluster of wicks. I'm going to select the region with the most wicks in that zone. I'm going to drag my box across. Then you can see without drawing a box, we've got a clear support region over here. We've got 3 candle wicks in that zone. And then this little region could be interesting as well for us. We can see we've got a little cluster of candles there, about 3 or 4 touches in that zone. So we're going to pull that box across. Let's see how the 4 hour support and resistance bands play out. As you can see, the system is exactly the same, whether we are looking for zones on the weekly or whether we are looking for zones on the 4 hour. It's all going to depend on your trading strategy. Now remember, you could do this on the daily, the 12 hour, the 8 hour, the 2 hour, even the 15 minutes and 5 minute candles. It's all the same principle. As long as you're getting enough candle wicks in those zones, you want to look for at least 3 to 4. That should show you that this could be a nice reaction area. So that is ideally what you want to look for on any time frame that you are playing in. I've shown you the 4 hour time frame, and I explained at the beginning of the video that the lower time frame has a lot of less strength than the main time frame. So it doesn't mean that you can't have short-term trades in these zones, but when it comes to major events or major areas, we need to zoom out and understand where our strongest levels are. Remember, when we are creating the ultimate hot zones, we really want to use the most banging areas. And let me show you an example here. as to which hot zone ties in beautifully with those 4-hour levels that I've just given you. So as you can see, we've identified all these 4-hour zones and they've all played their part. So if you were a short-term trader, there would have been multiple regions where you would have had bounces, where you would have had rejections, there would have been longs, there would have been shorts. But if we start zooming out and looking for our major area, our strongest zone, we need to see where we can tie in the lower time frame levels with the higher time frame level. So what I've done now is I've zoomed out on the weekly, and I want to see which of these 4-hour levels that I've just drawn up actually ties in with a major high impact reaction zone on the weekly. So the previous weekly zone that we identified was this cluster of candles, and we can drag this box across and we can see this beautiful tie-in with the lower 4-hour band tying in beautifully to our weekly support region. So we understand, even if we are short-term trading, when the token or the price gets to that bigger level, there's a higher probability of a strong reaction in that zone versus a stronger reaction in one of the higher regions. Hot zone step 1 is now complete. You understand the basics of drawing support and resistance. Remember, the longer you practice or the more time you put into this, the easier it's going to get for you. It's going to be a little bit challenging in the beginning, but keep going. You're going to master this in no time.